Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the Victorian Studio podcast. My name is Maureen and I'm coming to you from my studio here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Welcome to all new and returning viewers. I hope you enjoy seeing what I have to share today. And the majority of that is going to be toys. But before I get into those, I wanted to mention the year-long Harry Potter knit-along in the Victorian Studio podcast group is still going really strong, and I'll be drawing for some more prizes in the next episode, so it'll be for the end of the month. So if you have some projects that you are still working on and want to get them in for the drawing for the end of the month, make sure you enter them in the Ravelry group. Of course, links to the group are in the description box below. If you haven't joined us yet and you would like to participate and are doing anything that is Harry Potter related, either the pattern or the yarn, or you can convince us that it is related to the Harry Potter universe, please join us. It's never too late to join in. Even though this knit-along has been going on since January the 1st, it will be going right through until the end of the year. So still plenty of time to enter and be eligible for some prizes. I'll be still awarding prizes at the end of October, November, and December for that knit-along. So thank you everybody who has been participating so far, and of course Vonnie, our moderator, who has been doing such a great job with all the chatter and any questions people have. So yeah, that's been just wonderful to see that being such a successful knit-along. The other knit-along that I'm involved in started October the 1st, and of course it's the Pen, Hook and Needles annual toy-along. This is very near and dear to my heart because I really enjoy creating toys out of knitting, and I really love seeing everybody's projects that they've created for this knit-along. And Talia and Marlisha were so very kind and thoughtful to once again invite me to co-host, so I'm very honored to do that. Thank you, ladies. And this year we're also being joined by Kay and Dan of the Bakery Bears podcast. So it's been wonderful to see all of the participation, the prizes, and everything that's going on with the toy-along. It's such a lot of fun. So if you're interested in participating in that, you have to be a member of our group to be eligible for prizes in the Victorian Studio podcast group. So all the rules and regulations are over in the RAV group. So again, there'll be links below to that. And if you're not already a member, head on over and join up, and you can be eligible for some prizes. In my group, I have 3 project bags that I've sewn up, and I showed those last episode, but here's another image of them, as well as prizes for charms from my Victorian Studio shop over on Etsy that are knitting or crocheting stitch markers or progress keepers. And also I'll be giving away some free patterns on Ravelry. So yes, if you haven't joined us yet, please do. It's a lot of fun. So speaking of the toy-along, I decided I was going to do, as I've done in previous years, do a little slideshow of finished projects that have already been entered into our RAV group. So just a short slideshow as it's just started, but we already have some finished objects in there, so enjoy. So those are just wonderful. Thank you everyone for all of your entries so far. And of course you can enter more than once, and of course you can also triple dip into the 2 other groups as well. So yeah, lots of opportunities for wonderful prizes. So speaking of toys, I have a few that I've knit up over the last few weeks, but before I get to those, I thought I would share with you a couple of other projects that I was working on and completed over the last little while. The majority of my projects I try to either double or triple dip into the many knit-alongs that I'm involved in, not only the Harry Potter knit-along. I'm also quite involved in the Harry Potter House Cup over on Ravelry. I'm a member of the staff on Gryffindor now, and that's been keeping me fairly busy as well over the last little while, creating badges and posts and that kind of thing over there. So that's been keeping me fairly involved. And also I've been participating in the Loops Harry Potter knit-along that started in October. So there's a few threads over there and prompts that I've been involving and doing projects for. So Lydia Brown over there, who runs the Loops group and of course is the dyer behind Loops Yarn, has been wonderful. She's also donated a skein of yarn to our Harry Potter knit-along. So if you want to see all the prizes, you can head over to our Ravelry group to see that. But yeah, so I've been involved in Gryffindor House over there as well. So yeah, what I've been trying to do over the last little while is to choose projects that would meet multiple prompts in all of the things that I'm involved in. So the first of those, let's see, is something, this one was only for the Harry Potter House Cup. The prompt, I believe, was to create something a couple of times, either 2 or 3 of the same item. So what I thought I would do, at first I was going to do some more washcloths, which you've seen numerous times here. But this time I found a pattern, a free pattern on Ravelry, and this is actually by Pearl Soho, called the Calla Coasters. There's a picture of it there. I'll put a picture of it here for you to see even better. But this is something that I wanted to make. It you can do it in either knitting or crocheting, and I believe this pattern is no longer on Ravelry or on the Pearl Soho website. I believe it took me to the Wayback Machine, which is the internet site that catalogs and keeps old website pages. So what I did was I just copied and pasted the instructions for this into Word and printed it out for myself. So what I did was I printed out both the knitting and the crocheted version because they also have instructions to sew a back onto these coasters out of fabric, which I thought maybe in the future I would like to do. But I thought it would be a nice quick knit to meet the challenge over in the house group to make more than one of an item. So I got out my Bernat cotton yarn, which you've seen I'm sure numerous times. I have a huge skein of it, which is so nice to have on hand whenever I want to do something you know, that I want to make dishcloths or washcloths out of. It's so nice having this big skein of white Bernat. So I got that out and made 2 coasters. Now these aren't blocked. So basically you start on the outside and work your way in. And the instructions, I believe, were for double pointed needles, but since I don't use double pointed needles, never have tried them, I just did these on my circulars, and I used US 4s or 3.5 millimeter needles for this, and they only took about 9 grams of cotton yarn each, but I thought these were really cute, and I like the way they actually curl up on the edges. They go around a glass or a mug. They even fit my coffee mug really well. So they kind of cradle the bottom of your glass or cup. But as I mentioned, you can certainly sew a fabric piece and sew it onto the back of these, which is very pretty on the Pearl Soho instructions. So I thought these were really nice and quick and useful, and who knows, I think these would make some nice gifts. Maybe, maybe with a nice bottle of wine or something, and make up some that are maybe in different colors and that kind of thing, some more muted colors, and combine them into a gift for somebody else. So that was my first project that I completed. I believe it only took the same day to create those. And then my next project was something that I also am going to gift, and this will be a Christmas gift, or maybe it will be for his birthday, since it's for my husband. His birthday is December 24th, so I can certainly either save it for the 24th or the 25th for him. And this project I did to meet a challenge over at the House Cup to create something to protect somebody else. So what I thought I would do is to make him a toque, and also to get as much yardage as possible, because we got extra points over in the House Cup for as much yardage as we could knit in this certain amount of time for Quidditch, I believe. I used some of my hand-dyed yarn to make this hat, and also then use the rest of it to create a similar matching cowl. So the first item that I did, I got a pattern called 2x2 by Ann G. I'll put a picture of it here, since this picture isn't very good. I believe this is a free pattern over on Ravelry, and it's a pretty simple hat. So what I did was I had some Cascade 220 in black, but I also used some of the Bear Cascade that I had on hand that I had previously hand dyed for some socks that I created for him from last Christmas, and he loves black and gray, so I thought I would use this to make his toque out of. And I love the construction of this. I don't know if you can see it very well. I'll put a picture in here of it on a mannequin head, so you can see the design at the top better. But it's really very nice, and not as thick as the previous toques that I've made for him. Previously I've done some in very bulky yarn. This is a little bit lighter for him, and so he can either wear it folded up or pulled down. But one of the nice things that I learned from this pattern is they suggest that you do a cast on called the German twisted cast on, and that's something that I had never tried before. So I went over to YouTube and found the Very Pink Knits tutorial on how to do this cast on, and I will link that tutorial below, because look at that elasticity in the cast on. It is great. There's no no pulling at all with that, and being just a ribbed toque, that's really important because there is a lot of elasticity in that, being all 2x2 rib. So yeah, that was great to learn that new technique, and I'm sure going to use it again. So anybody looking for a really nice stretchy cast on, I think people that do toe or cuff down socks, if you like a really stretchy cuff on your socks, that would be a good option. So I completed this just in a day or so, and then had the rest of the gray yarn that I had dyed up left over, and some time left to try to get as much yardage as possible. So I thought I would just make him a cowl to go with that, and I made it just as long as I could, and this time striped it using the black. And again, it's Cascade 220, and it's again just a 2x2 rib, and I made it so that he can use a double thickness to cover up and be really warm on our very, very cold Winnipeg winters. So I think he'll really enjoy having both of those items this Christmas or birthday. Probably Christmas, probably a stocking stuffer for him. So yeah, that was great to use up that. This is all I have left of my hand-dyed gray yarn. So I'm sure I'll be making more of it because, as I said, he loves gray and black. So those were the two non-toy projects that I have to share with you today. The next ones, let's see. I have 3 toys to share with you, and these are always so much fun to do. So the first one is a little mouse pattern that I found on Ravelry called Mirasol Mouse. And I chose this pattern because the prompt over in the house cup was to do something that was more than 50% gray. So I thought it'd be cute to make this little mouse in gray. The picture actually, the image on the pattern is a little gray mouse with little pink ears, tail, and nose. So this again, I believe, is a free pattern by Rachel Borello. And this only took 4 grams or about 20 yards of yarn. And I used US zeros for this to make it nice and tight. When you're doing toys, you want to have that tight fabric so that the stuffing doesn't show through. So what I did was I chose again some hand-dyed yarn that I had done previously for my Hedwig the Owl. I had some Bear Knit Picks Imagination yarn, and I had dyed some of it first of all with this darker gray, and I found that it was a little too dark for Hedwig, and then I dyed it again with a little bit less dye, and this is what I used for my Hedwig the Owl. So I had this darker gray still in my stash, so I thought this would be perfect for a little mouse. And because it is a fairly fine, let's see, this is 50% merino wool, 25% superfine alpaca, and 25% nylon, and it's fingering weight. So that's where the size 0 needles came in, because I wanted to make something that was really very tight. So there's my little Mirasol, and again, it's so much fun to do these little guys. I used just some stash yarn that I had in pink for his ears and tail. His tail is just an I-cord. And yeah, I think I pretty much kept to the pattern for this little guy. And again, really quick knit to do, and you know, stuffed fairly tightly. So yeah, I was able to create him both for then the toy along and for the house cup to do something mostly gray. So let's see, the next one is again a toy, and this time I used a fairly new pattern on Ravelry. Let's see, the prompt over in the house cup for this one was to create something out of old stash. And when I first started to knit back in 2014, daughter and I were taking knitting lessons over at Woolsley Wool. And we were learning how to knit on the round, since we had never done anything other than flat items. So it was a good opportunity to learn that hands-on from somebody else. We had a lot of fun doing that. And what I chose for my first project was something using a boucle yarn, which is a very almost like an art yarn, where it was very bumpy and not probably the smartest thing to start out with, but I had made my first toy, this fuzzy mitten lamb, out of it. But that's where I learned how to knit in the round. So since then, because this yarn isn't the easiest to knit with, it's been sitting in my stash collecting dust since 2014. So it was a perfect opportunity to use this because they wanted you to use something that was old and hadn't been used for a while. So what I thought I would do, because the boucle yarn is so perfect for making a sheep, I found this little pattern called Pretty Little Sheep on Ravelry. I believe it was only a pound to purchase this. And yeah, it's really a good pattern, although I will admit I have changed it around a little bit. If you notice, they have sheep standing on legs. I ended up making mine a sitting sheep. Also with this pattern, it's very good to follow along, but the instructions are for knitting flat. And so I decided I was going to knit it in the round. I did do the head flat though, so that I would get the proper shape, but the rest of it then I did in the round. So let's see, I used US number 4s again for this, even though I was using thicker yarn. And this I started out with was the Loops and Threads undyed yarn. Again, I purchased this in 2014 as well. So I used this along with the Rowan Pure Life British Sheep Breeds Boucle. So I think that's how you pronounce it. So as you can see, it's, you know, fairly textured yarn, and like I say, not the easiest to knit with. Let's see, for the undyed yarn, this is, let's see, or undyed wool by Loops and Threads. Does it even say what it's made out of? Don't see it here, but this is the cream color in this, and I've used this previously for my teapot cozy and a few other projects. So this is I really like working with this. This one, this British Breeds, let's see, does it say? It just says 100% British wool. Oh, it's BFL on there. So yeah, these were a good match together to make a little sheep out of. So what I did was I started following the pattern to create the head, and that was good. But then it had you knitting flat and then seaming up other items such as the ears, the tail, and the legs. I knit all of those up using I-cords instead of doing them flat. And I knit up, but I ended up not using the legs, because after I knit the body and kind of set him down on my desk, I thought, oh, he looks really cute just sitting. And when I showed hubby, who owned a lot of sheep, he said it's exactly how they look when they sit down. You can't see their legs tucked in underneath them. So I don't have a name for this fellow yet, but this is my little sitting sheep that I made from that pattern. And when I did the body, as I mentioned before, I did knit it in the round, but before I stuffed it, I turned it inside out. I did it all in stockinette, which was great to do it in the round. You don't have any purl rows, but I really love the texture of the boucle yarn on the inside of it rather than on the stockinette outside part. So I just flipped it inside out. I thought it looked a lot more sheepy with the other side showing, so that's what I did. And then I just went to my little ribbon stash that I have hanging over my desk here and pulled out a piece of ribbon. And in my little box that I have on my desk, I still have lots of beads and things like that that I've used from other crafting, and I have a drawer full of items that are more Christmas related. And I thought, oh, I'll find a little bell in there from my Christmas stash and put that around his neck. So I'm really pleased the way that turned out. I like the way that they had you do the head with just the regular undyed yarn and then the boucle. This isn't the yarn they recommended in the pattern. It's a British pattern, so they talk about British yarns, and I'm not sure. They call it James C. Brett yarn, and also let's see, they have another type of yarn on there, and I'm really not sure. I assume that one is like the boucle and one regular, just from looking at the pictures. So yeah, I'm happy with the way this little guy turned out. So I'll have to, I think, find a name for him. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So quick. I think maybe I might even do some more since I have lots of this yarn left, and I really don't know what else I would use it for. So I entered him in the Harry Potter house cup for using old stash, as well as, of course, in the pen, hook, and needles toy knit along as well. So yeah, that was great to get that done. And again, it took just one day to make him up. And so the last project that I wanted to share with you today is my largest toy that I did over the last little while. And this, of course, I did for the pen, hook, and needles toy along, or knit along. I also entered him into the O-Loops Harry Potter knit along because we had to do something related to Gringotts Bank. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, you know that there's a dragon that kind of protects the Gringotts Bank. So that's something that I wanted to create, was a dragon. And he also met the prompts over in the Harry Potter house cup for, let's see, something that was more than 50% green. As well, after I posted it on a few of those areas, someone over in the Gradients group on Ravelry that is doing projects that use gradient yarn asked me if I would post it over there because they like the way the gradients in this project turned out. So that was very nice. Oh, and speaking of kind of, you know, being surprised with getting noticed. Also, the bag that I'm using for this, I created back, let's see, in September for Quidditch Match 1 over in the Harry Potter House Cup, and I just learned today that I earned a trophy for it. I got the most votes for their favorite project for Quidditch Match 1, which was creating something to capture a dragon. So I wrote my post as if this was a dragon trap. So that was a lot of fun to write and post over there. So I was really honored today to learn that I won a trophy. I won a trophy back in, I think, February for my Gryffindor house bag. So this is the second time I've won a trophy, and it's a big honor because they take everybody who has participated in that. I think they choose maybe their top 3 or 4 items from that, either class or extracurricular activity, and then it goes to a vote, and the one with the most votes wins the trophy. So I was really thrilled to find that out today, that this bag had won that. So back to the project that's in here. What I decided to do was a dragon for the many prompts to meet the different prerequisites. So I went back to the Fuzzy Mittens pattern that I had purchased when I did my first dragon, and this is by Barbara Prime. So I'll put a picture of it here as well in color so you can see that. It's called Dragon and Friends, and it's a paid-for pattern over on Ravelry. So last time I used it just as kind of inspiration for my other dragon that I had made, which was a lot smaller, totally different looking than this dragon. But this time I decided to make a really nice squishy toy that was a little more cutesy rather than more dragony. So yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this, and I decided to use some gradient yarn that I had in my stash. I think I did the Age of Brass and Steam scarf out of this previously. So I still had a couple of these Red Heart Boutique Treasure skeins in my stash. I believe I think I even had 3 of them, and this is called Mosaic. And so this, I believe, is an acrylic yarn. Let's see, it is 70% acrylic, 30% wool. So it's great for making toys out of, and I love the way it goes from greens to blues, which I thought would be perfect for a little dragon. So what I ended up doing, because I didn't have any plans for the 3 remaining skeins that I had in my stash, I had no qualms about pulling apart one of the skeins and finding matching lengths of yarn so that I could match up the limbs on this little guy. Because I'm kind of OCD like that, I wanted to, when I first started, I did the first leg and then I knit up the second leg, and then I realized it was totally a different color, and I preferred to have them matching. So what I did was I went into the skein and pulled out lengths and lengths of yarn out of it until I got matching sections so that I could start each limb with approximately the same point in the yarn dyeing as the other one. So I wanted to match the legs, the arms, and the wings so that they would be matching. So I'll show you the little guy here and I'll explain more of how I made him. So here he is, and Valeria, when I posted him over in the Pen, Hook and Needles, dubbed him Norbert. And if you're not a Harry Potter fan, that's the name of Hagrid's first dragon, was Norbert. So yeah, I thought that was really cute to name him after him. So as I said, I did the legs as I did, my bakery bears and that kind of thing, so that they could move. So I like him just sitting here like this. But I did the first leg that ran from blue up to green, because you start at the bottom. And so I tried to match up the second one to do the same. And again, the arms move the same way, and again I tried to match up the gradient. So we're going from this almost a tealy blue at the paws up to green at his shoulders. And again, the wings that had the tealy colored at the tips and then went to more green near his body. So there's the back as well. I put the wings on so that the ribbing in the wings showed at the front. I think on the pattern they had them the other way, but I like them this way so you can see them when he's actually sitting down. And his head I did to pattern. Now again, the majority of this pattern I believe is knit flat. And after seaming, I seamed, I believe, the legs and the head. I decided enough with knitting flat. I knit the rest in the round. I did knit the body in the round, and his arms, and all of these horns are knit in the round as well. So I did do the head flat though, so that I could get the right shape for him. And I had some just some safety eyes in my stash, so always good to have at the beginning of a toy cal is a whole bunch of safety eyes. I got them from, I believe it's called 6060 Eyes on Etsy. I'll link that shop below. If you're doing toys, that's a great place to find all kinds of toy eyes, from very small ones to very large ones, both round ones or cat's eyes that I've used here on the dragon, in all different colors. So you'll not find a better shop on Etsy. Great shop, really quick with delivery, and I've never had a problem with them. So they're always my go-to for eyes. So yeah, I used more of the bluish yarn for his little spikes going down, and I did the tail again in the round as well, and ran the spikes all the way down his tail. So this was so much fun to create this little guy. He's so soft and squishy. Really love the way he turned out. And yeah, really pleased to enter him also in Loop's cal, in the Harry Potter house cup, and of course Pen, Hook and Needles toy along. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing even more toys, and I can't believe I've already run out of stuffing from last year. I guess that a big bag of stuffing lasted me over the last couple of years for making toys. So I think now I've made 19 toys, because I tag them in my project pages over on Ravelry to keep track. So the next toy I make will be number 20. So I need to open up my new batch of stuffing to make my next one. So I don't know what that's going to be yet, but I'm looking forward to creating even more. So I hope you enjoy seeing what I had to share with you. That's it for knitting. And I didn't get a chance to do any polymer clay sculpting over the last little while, so I don't have any of that to share with you today. The last thing I did want to talk about, though, is something that was given to me that I'm going to be sharing with the viewers. And that is Susan over at the One More Row podcast. She is called Tall Polish Girl on Ravelry. She's a dear friend from BC who I visited with, I believe it was last summer when she came back to Winnipeg. She's a former Winnipegger who's now living in BC. She is a very dear friend, and she ordered a couple of my stitch markers from my Etsy shop and got in touch with me that she had, received them and was enjoying them, and had mentioned that she was doing some pattern writing. And she was actually invited by a friend of hers, Eva Christie, who organized and hosted the Perth Festival of Yarn in the UK. I guess that was, I think it was a few months ago. She asked her to design, for Susan to design something for the book that went along with the festival called This Skein. And it's an ebook that you can actually, I'll link it below, that you can find on Ravelry, that has numerous patterns in it that are beautiful. But of course I saw Susan had a pattern for socks called the Fair Maid, and they're beautiful lace socks. And so Susan was so sweet and generous. She's donated a free copy of the ebook with this skein with multiple patterns in it. I think it has 7 patterns in it. She has generously donated it to a viewer of the podcast. So thank you so much, Susan. It was so very sweet of you. So what I'm going to do is I will start a thread over on Ravelry that if you would like to win a copy of this ebook, just enter there and I'll draw for a winner, not the next podcast episode, but the one following. So I'll put a picture of the ebook here so that you can see what it looks like. So if you're interested in this, check out the ebook on Ravelry, enter in our Ravelry group, and about mid-November I will draw for a winner for that. So thank you again, Susan. It was so very sweet of you to donate that to the podcast. So I think that's all that I have to share with you today. I'll, of course, at the end add a few pictures from the past few weeks. We've been getting ready, of course, as everyone who does celebrate Halloween. I've been getting ready, decorating finally. Of course, I went out, have a real pumpkin that I'm going to be carving. So the next episode will probably be after Halloween. So I will put pictures of that in the next episode of what I carved this year. And also, of course, getting the wonderful mini candies, which I probably will have to replenish because both hubby and I have been dipping into it more than we really should. But looking forward to Halloween as always. I really enjoy this time of year. So I hope you're having a wonderful October as well. It's so nice to get the hand knits out and wear them. Especially to work and that as well. So it even snowed here last, I think Saturday morning. We woke up to snow on the ground, and I knew it wasn't going to last, but it was so beautiful to see. I even saw the geese fly overhead, and saying, "Okay, we're out of here." But it was great to see snow on the ground again. I really enjoy it. But then yesterday we broke records for high temperatures here, so it was like a beautiful summer day again. So back and forth between the snow and the beautiful days. It's just been a wonderful fall. So I hope yours has been as well. So until the next episode, thank you so much for stopping by and visiting. I hope you enjoyed seeing, the few finished projects that I had to share. And I'm sure I'll have more the next time I record. So thank you again, and have a wonderful couple of weeks, everyone. Bye-bye.